I was staring at my phone screen when my entire world shattered. $53,000. Gone. In 3 days. My hands trembled as I scrolled through transaction after transaction on my business credit card. Luxury yacht rental in the Bahamas, $18,000. Designer shopping spree at Gucci, $12,000. Private beachfront villa, $15,000. And there, tagged in a video that one of my so-called friends had sent me with a crying laughing emoji, was my baby sister Chloe, dancing on that yacht with a gold card catching the Caribbean sunlight. My gold card. My company's card. The card that bore the name Whitmore PR across its face. But before I tell you how I ended up here, in the middle of the biggest betrayal of my life, I need you to do something for me. If you've ever felt used, taken for granted, or completely blindsided by someone you trusted, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to hear how this nightmare ends. Because trust me, you won't believe where this goes. And drop a comment telling me what you would do in my situation. Because I'm about to show you exactly what I did. Let me take you back to where this all started. I had built Whitmore PR from nothing. At 32 years old, I was the youngest woman to land a multi-million-dollar contract with one of Austin's biggest tech corporations. That morning, just hours before everything fell apart, I had stood in a glass-walled conference room on the 20th floor, and my presentation reflecting off the polished mahogany table as 8 executives in tailored suits nodded approvingly at my pitch. The city spread out below us like a promise, all gleaming steel and possibility. I was wearing my power suit, the Navy Armani that cost me a month's salary 5 years ago. Back when I was scraping by, but I had made it. My firm employed 15 people. We had clients across Texas and expanding into California. I had a corner office with a view of the Austin skyline that made me feel like I owned the city. The presentation had gone flawlessly. I had spent 3 weeks preparing, fine-tuning every slide, anticipating every question. When the CEO, a silver-haired man named Robert Chen, stood up and shook my hand. He told me I reminded him of his daughter, someone who wasn't afraid to dream big. The contract was mine, $3.2 million over 18 months. It would put Whitmore PR on the map as one of the Southwest's premier boutique agencies. I remember walking back to my car in the parking garage, my heels clicking against the concrete, feeling like I was floating. I called my assistant manager, David, and told him to order lunch for the whole office. Whatever everyone wanted. We were celebrating. He laughed and said he'd already seen the champagne being delivered because he knew I'd nail it. That was the kind of team I had built. People who believed in me, who worked hard because I worked harder, who stayed late not because I demanded it but because they wanted to be part of something special. That was the Eleanor everyone saw. Confident, successful, in control. What they didn't see was the Eleanor who had been writing checks to her mother for 20 years. The Eleanor who paid for her younger sister Chloe's college tuition at the University of Texas, a full $50,000. Even though Chloe dropped out after 1 semester because she was too busy partying, the Eleanor who covered the rent on Mom's house when Patricia claimed she couldn't make ends meet, even though I knew Mom's gambling problem was bleeding her dry. I had seen the casino statements she left on her kitchen counter. I had watched her scratch lottery tickets with the intensity of someone convinced this time would be different. The Eleanor who smiled through Thanksgiving dinners while Chloe showed off her newest designer handbag, a $3,000 Birkin purchased with money I had loaned her, that she swore she'd pay back but never did. My father died when I was 16 and Chloe was 8. Heart attack at 43. Sudden and brutal and final. One day he was coaching my soccer team. The next day, Mom was crying in a funeral home, picking out caskets. I became the responsible one overnight. The one who made sure Chloe got to school. Who helped Mom with the insurance paperwork when she was too devastated to function. Who got a job at Target, stocking shelves at 5 in the morning before school started. The life insurance payout was $200,000. Mom promised she'd invest it wisely. Use it to secure our future. 3 years later, it was gone. All of it. Bad investments and pyramid schemes. Online shopping binges. Weekend trips to the casino in Louisiana. By the time I graduated high school, there was nothing left except debt and excuses. I worked 2 jobs through college, waiting tables at night and doing administrative work for a small PR firm during the day. That's where I fell in love with the industry. Watching how the right words could transform a company's image, how strategy and creativity could solve problems that seemed impossible. I graduated with honors and $17,000 in student loans that took me 8 years to pay off. Chloe got to be the baby, the princess, the one who never had to grow up, because big sister Eleanor would always be there to catch her when she fell. And I did catch her. Every single time. When Chloe was 19, she called me sobbing because she'd crashed Mom's car while driving drunk. She begged me not to tell the police the truth because she'd lose her license. I paid for the car repairs out of my savings. $4,000 that was supposed to be for a down payment on my first apartment. I told Mom the damage happened in a parking lot. Chloe promised she'd learned her lesson. 2 months later, she got another DUI. I paid for the lawyer. When Chloe was 21, she came to me with a business plan scribbled on notebook paper. Her eyes bright with possibility. She wanted to start a boutique, a high-end fashion store in downtown Austin that would cater to young professionals. She had it all figured out. She said she just needed $20,000 for startup costs. Inventory. Arène deposit. Business licenses. I met with her 3 times. Looked over her numbers, which were wildly optimistic and mathematically impossible. My accountant, a gruff man named Harold, who had been doing my taxes since I started freelancing, warned me it was a bad investment. He pointed out that Chloe had never held a job longer than 3 months, had no retail experience, and was essentially asking me to fund a hobby. But she was my sister, and she looked at me with Dad's eyes, the same hazel green that I saw in the mirror every morning. And she said, "Please, Eleanor, you're the only one who believes in me." So I gave her the money. I liquidated a mutual fund I'd been building for 5 years and handed her a check for $20,000. She cried and hugged me and promised this would change everything. 6 months later, the boutique never materialized. There was no storefront, no inventory, no business license. But Chloe had a brand new red BMW convertible and was taking weekend trips to Miami. When I confronted her, meeting her at a Starbucks where she showed up 30 minutes late with fresh acrylic nails and a designer coffee, she just shrugged and said the business idea didn't work out. The retail market was too competitive. She'd done research and decided it wasn't viable. The car was necessary, she explained, because her old Honda was breaking down, and how could she be expected to get to job interviews without reliable transportation? I asked about the Miami trips. She got defensive, her voice rising in the crowded coffee shop. She said I was being controlling, that she deserved to have some fun in her life, that not everyone could be a workaholic robot like me. Other customers were staring. I felt my face burn with embarrassment and anger, but I kept my voice level. I told her I just wanted to understand where the money went. She grabbed her purse and stormed out, leaving me with the bill for both our drinks. When I told Mom what happened, Patricia sighed heavily over the phone and told me I was being too harsh, that Chloe was still young, still finding herself. She reminded me that I had always been the responsible one, and that was wonderful. But not everyone was like me. Some people needed more time to figure things out. She said I should be proud to help my sister. That family was supposed to support each other. The guilt settled into my chest like a stone. When Chloe was 23, she started dating Marcus Thorne. He met him at Mom's birthday dinner, a tense affair at a chain restaurant where the air conditioning was broken and everyone was sweating and irritable. Marcus showed up 40 minutes late, wearing a silk shirt unbuttoned, too low, and cologne that made my eyes water. He had slicked back dark hair, teeth that were unnaturally white, possibly veneers, and a handshake that felt like holding a dead fish, clammy and lifeless. He spent the entire dinner talking about a cryptocurrency investment opportunity that was going to make him a millionaire. And I watched Chloe hang on his every word, like he was revealing the secrets of the universe. I pulled Chloe aside when she went to the bathroom and asked her what she saw in him. She laughed and said I was just jealous because I was always working and never had time for romance. She said Marcus understood her, that he had big dreams just like she did, that he made her feel special. I bit my tongue and said nothing else, but I knew he was trouble. I had spent 10 years in PR reading people, understanding motivations, spotting lies. Marcus was a con artist, and my sister was his mark. Within 3 months, They moved in together into a luxury apartment in the warehouse district with exposed brick and floor-to-ceiling windows and a rent of $2,800 a month. I knew neither of them had jobs. Chloe was working sporadically as a bottle service girl at a nightclub, bringing home maybe $1,000 a month if she was lucky. Marcus claimed to be a day trader, but his laptop was always closed and he spent most of his time at the gym or playing video games. The calls started soon after. Chloe needed money for rent. Just this once, she promised. Marcus's big investment was about to pay off and they'd pay me back double. I said no. It was the first time in my life I had said no to Chloe, and it felt like swallowing glass. She cried. She said she didn't know who I'd become, that success had changed me, that I'd forgotten where I came from. I held firm. That lasted exactly 2 weeks. Mom called me at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night, her voice thick with tears and wine. She said Chloe and Marcus were going to be evicted, that they'd be homeless on the streets, that I was the only one who could help. And how could I live with myself knowing my baby sister was suffering when I had so much? She said Dad would be ashamed of me. That hit me like a physical blow. I sat in my apartment, looking at the framed photo of Dad on my bookshelf, him smiling at my high school graduation. So proud. And I felt the guilt crush down on me until I couldn't breathe. I paid their rent. And the next month, and the month after that, 6 months total. $16,800. Marcus never got a job. His investment never materialized. Chloe stopped returning my calls unless she needed something. Now Chloe was 25. Marcus was 28. And apparently, my business credit card had become their personal playground. After I saw that video of Chloe on the yacht, after my heart rate had finally slowed enough that I could breathe without feeling like I was drowning, after I had checked my business accounts 3 times to make sure this was real and not some nightmare, I called my mother. My hands were still shaking as I held the phone. It rang 4 times, and I counted each ring, feeling my jaw clench tighter with every passing second. When she picked up, her voice was cheerful, oblivious, the voice of someone who hadn't just enabled identity theft. "Hello, sweetie. How was your presentation?" "Mom?" I kept my voice level, professional, on the same carefully controlled tone I used when dealing with difficult clients who thought they knew better than me. "Did you give Chloe my business credit card?" There was a pause. I could hear the television in the background, some reality show with people screaming at each other. Then a small, nervous laugh that made my skin crawl. "Oh, Eleanor, don't be so dramatic. I gave her a supplementary card for emergencies. She needed a little vacation. You know how stressed she's been." Stressed. My voice rose despite my best efforts. "Mom, she's spent over $50,000 in 3 days. 50,000. Do you understand what that means? Do you have any concept of how much money that is?" "Well, honey, you have so much money. Your company is doing so well. Surely you can afford to let your sister have a little fun. She's young. She deserves to enjoy life. You gotta build your career. Why shouldn't she get to enjoy her youth?" I felt something crack inside me, like ice breaking under pressure, like a dam finally giving way, after holding back years of floodwater. "She's using my company's name. Mom, she's pretending to be me. She's telling people she's the CEO of my company. Do you understand that's illegal? That's fraud. That's identity theft. She could go to prison." "Prison? Don't be ridiculous. She's your sister. Eleanor, she made a mistake. She got a little carried away. You're not seriously going to make this into some legal thing, are you? Family doesn't do that to family. We protect each other." I hung up. I actually pulled the phone away from my ear and ended the call while she was still talking. Something I had never done in my life. My hands were shaking again. But this time it wasn't fear or shock. It was rage. Pure, white-hot rage that made my vision blur and my chest tighten. I pulled up my laptop and logged into the credit card account through my company's financial portal. I needed to see everything. Every transaction, every detail. The yacht rental in Nassau was the biggest single charge, booked through a luxury concierge service. I clicked through to the reservation details and my stomach dropped. Chloe had listed herself as Eleanor Whitmore, CEO and founder of Whitmore PR. She had used my business address. She had provided my phone number as a contact. The yacht company had probably looked up my company, seen our website, seen my photo, and assumed she was authorized to make this booking. The villa rental was even worse. A waterfront estate with 6 bedrooms, infinity pool, private beach, butler service, full catering, $10,000 for 3 nights. The reservation form showed she had checked in as Eleanor Whitmore, listing Whitmore PR as her employer, and claiming the stay was for a corporate retreat. She had even used the company tax ID to try to get a business discount. But that wasn't all. As I scrolled through the statements, I saw charges at Gucci, Prada, Louis Vuitton, a jewelry store purchase for $8,000, a spa day for $3,000, bottle service at beach clubs, private dinner reservations at restaurants where the prix-fixe menu started at $500 per person. Every charge, every single one, was flagged with my company name. She hadn't just stolen my money. She had stolen my identity, my reputation, my credibility, everything I had spent 10 years building. She had used as a prop for her vacation with her deadbeat boyfriend. I pulled up her Instagram. She hadn't made the account private, probably because she wanted everyone to see how fabulous her life was. The photos from the past 3 days were a chronicle of excess. Chloe in a white bikini on the yacht, holding a champagne bottle. Caption: living that CEO life. Chloe and Marcus at a beachfront restaurant. Sunset behind them. Caption: when your company card has no limits. Chloe holding up my business card to the camera. The gold Amex with Whitmore PR embossed across it. Caption: perks of being executive management. I felt sick. Not just angry anymore, but physically ill. I ran to my bathroom and dry heaved over the toilet, my body rejecting the sheer audacity of what my sister had done. When I finally stopped, I splashed cold water on my face and looked at myself in the mirror. My mascara was smudged. My eyes were red. I looked like a victim. I was done being a victim. I called Chloe directly. My hands were steady now. My voice calm. It rang once before she picked up, and I could hear music and laughter in the background. The sounds of people having the time of their lives with my money. Hey sis. What's up? Her voice was bright. Careless. Slightly slurred. She was drunk. Of course she was drunk. Come home. Now. She laughed. The high-pitched giggle she'd had since she was a little girl. Why I'm having the time of my life here. Eleanor, this place is incredible. The water is so blue you wouldn't believe it. And the yacht, oh my God. It's like something from a movie. You should see the sunset from the deck. It's absolutely gorgeous. You should come down here. When's the last time you took a vacation? You stole my credit card. Chloe. Borrowed. Mom said it was fine. She said you wouldn't mind. Come on. Don't be such a buzzkill. You've got plenty of money. Your company is killing it. I saw that article about your new contract in the Austin Business Journal. Congratulations. By the way. So really, this is like a celebration for both of us. Consider it a gift to your baby sister. That's when I heard Marcus's voice in the background. Lazy and mocking. The voice of someone who had never faced consequences for anything in his life. Tell Eleanor to chill out. We're just having fun with family money. It's not like she's going to miss it. What's she gonna do? Call the cops on her own sister. That would be hilarious. Something inside me went very still. The anger disappeared, replaced by something colder and more focused. Clarity. Pure. Cristalline clarity. I had spent my entire adult life being the responsible one. The one who fixed problems. The one who sacrificed so everyone else could be happy. I had given away years of my life, hundreds of thousands of dollars, countless hours of stress and worry, all because I thought that's what family meant. And this was how they saw me. Not as a person with feelings and boundaries and rights. Not even as family. Really. Just as a bank account. A resource to be exploited and mocked and discarded when there was nothing left to take. Actually, Marcus, I said, my voice cold and calm. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I hung up before either of them could respond. The satisfaction of ending the call, of having the last word for once in my relationship with Chloe, was sharp and sweet. But then the doubt crept in. I sat on my couch, laptop open, phone in my hand, and I felt the familiar weight of guilt pressing down on my shoulders. She was my sister, my baby sister, the little girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms, who I taught to ride a bike, who I helped with her homework. How could I send her to prison? What would Dad think? What kind of person was I if I destroyed my own sister's life over money? I picked up my phone 3 times to call the credit card company and tell them it was a misunderstanding, that I had authorized the charges. 3 times I got as far as dialing the number. 3 times I stopped. And then I thought about my employees. David, who had a wife and 2 kids and a mortgage payment that depended on Whitmore PR staying solvent. Maria, my newest hire, who had just graduated from UT and was paying off student loans. Jin, who was saving to bring his parents over from South Korea. 15 people whose livelihoods depended on the reputation of my company. 15 people who trusted me to protect what we had built together. I thought about the clients who had placed their faith in Whitmore PR, who had trusted me with their most valuable asset, their public image. What would they think if they found out my company was so poorly managed that my own sister could commit fraud using our accounts? And I thought about every time I had enabled Chloe, every check I had written, every excuse I had made, every boundary I had failed to enforce. I had taught her that there were no consequences. I had taught her that she could do whatever she wanted because Eleanor would always clean up the mess. I had created this monster, and now she was destroying everything I had worked for. I opened my laptop and started documenting everything. Screenshots of every transaction, screenshots of her Instagram posts. I downloaded copies of the rental agreements, the credit card statements, everything I could find. I organized it all in a folder labeled evidence, and the word felt heavy with meaning. This was real. This was happening. Then I called Sophia. The next morning, at 9 o'clock, I sat across from Sophia Chen in her law office on 6th Street. Her space was all clean lines and floor-to-ceiling windows with a view of downtown Austin. Modern art on the walls. A massive desk made of reclaimed wood. Sophia and I had met 5 years ago when I was handling PR for a nonprofit she volunteered with. She had just made partner at her firm, a major accomplishment for someone who wasn't yet 35. We bonded over being women in competitive industries, over working twice as hard for half the recognition. She became my attorney, and eventually one of the few people I considered a real friend. She listened to my story with the kind of focused intensity that made her one of the best lawyers in Austin. I talked for 45 minutes straight, starting from my father's death and working through every instance of enabling, every red flag I had ignored, every dollar I had spent trying to buy my family's love. When I got to the credit card fraud, her expression didn't change, but I saw her jaw tighten. When I showed her the Instagram posts, she let out a low whistle that would have been funny under different circumstances. "Eleanor," she said when I finished, "this is bad. This is really, really bad. But not for you. For them." She pulled out a legal pad, her movements precise and controlled, and started writing in neat, organized columns. "What Chloe did isn't just credit card fraud. That alone would be serious enough. But by using your company name and presenting herself as you, as the CEO of your firm, she committed identity theft. In Texas, that's a state jail felony. We're talking 2 to 10 years in prison. And because the amount is over $30,000, it elevates to aggravated identity theft. That's a second-degree felony. 2 to 20 years. The numbers hit me like punches. 20 years. My baby sister could go to prison for 2 decades. Sophia continued, her voice steady and professional. And Marcus, as an accomplice who knowingly benefited from the fraud, he's liable too. If we can prove he knew what Chloe was doing, and those Instagram posts suggest he absolutely did, he's looking at the same charges. Plus, if he has any prior criminal record, which I'd bet money he does based on your description, the sentencing guidelines get harsher. She looked up at me over her reading glasses, and her expression softened slightly. "Eleanor, I need you to understand something. This isn't just about the money. Your sister damaged your professional reputation. If word gets out that someone was able to fraudulently use your company identity to obtain services, your clients are going to question your competence. They're going to wonder what other security lapses exist. This could destroy everything you've built." "I already thought of that," I said. "That's why I'm here. She nodded slowly. Good. Because we need to act fast. The longer this goes on, the more damage accumulates. Now, the question I have to ask you, and I need you to really think about this, is, are you prepared to prosecute your own sister? Because once we start down this path, there's no going back. Your mother will never forgive you. Chloe will paint herself as the victim. Your extended family, your friends, people in your community, they're going to call you heartless. They're going to say family should forgive family. Are you prepared for that level of backlash? I thought about the little girl Chloe used to be. Blonde pigtails and gap-toothed smile. Running through our backyard chasing fireflies. I thought about holding her hand at Dad's funeral while she cried and asked when he was coming home. I thought about teaching her to braid her hair. Helping her study for her middle school exams. Being there for every birthday and every holiday. Then I thought about the woman she had become. Entitled. Manipulative. Cruel. Someone who would steal from her own sister and mock her for being upset about it. Someone who had never shown gratitude. Never kept a promise. Never once considered how her actions affected other people. I thought about my employees. About the clients who trusted me. About the 10 years I had spent building something from nothing. Working 80-hour weeks. Sacrificing relationships and sleep and peace of mind. And I thought about the Eleanor I wanted to be. Not a doormat. Not a victim. Not someone who set herself on fire to keep other people warm. Yes, I said, and my voice didn't shake. I'm prepared. Do it? Sophia nodded, and something like respect flashed across her face. Then we go to war. But Eleanor, I need you to understand the timeline here. We're going to file a police report today. The charges will be filed within 48 hours. Chloe and Marcus will likely be arrested when they return to the country. Your mother is going to lose her mind. Your family is going to turn on you completely. This is going to get ugly before it gets better. I understand. And there's one more thing. Sophia pulled out another sheet of paper. We need to investigate whether there's more. Fraud like this, especially this brazen, is rarely a one-time occurrence. I recommend we do a full audit of your accounts, both business and personal, going back at least 5 years. We need to see if Chloe has done this before. My stomach clenched. The thought that this might not be the first time, that I might have been systematically robbed for years without knowing it, made me feel physically ill. Do it, I said. Whatever you need to do, do it. The next 48 hours were a blur of activity that felt both frantic and surreal. Sophia's paralegal, a efficient woman named Jennifer, helped me compile every piece of evidence we could find. We pulled credit card statements going back 3 years. We requested account activity logs from my bank, showing every time someone had accessed my accounts. We filed subpoenas for security camera footage from the yacht company and the villa rental service. What we found was worse than I imagined. This wasn't the first time. Not even close. Jennifer discovered that Chloe had been using a supplementary card on my personal credit account for almost 2 years. Small charges. Mostly. Nothing that would trigger fraud alerts. 500 here for a shopping trip, 800 there for a weekend getaway, 1,000 for concert tickets. Over 22 months, she had siphoned off nearly $40,000 from my personal account, keeping the charges just small enough that I hadn't noticed them in my monthly statements. But the business fraud, that was new, and it was catastrophic. Sophia's team uncovered something else during their investigation. Chloe and Marcus had somehow gained access to my client files. We found emails from Chloe's personal account to a competing PR firm, Sterling Communications, offering to sell confidential information about upcoming campaigns for Whitmore PR's clients, product launches, marketing strategies, crisis management plans, information that was protected by non-disclosure agreements and attorney-client privilege. Sterling had bought some of it. Not all of it, but enough. $5,000 for information about a tech startup's upcoming product launch. $3,000 for details about a crisis management strategy for a local politician. The leaked information had led to a premature announcement that cost my client millions in lost competitive advantage. Another leak had resulted in a minor scandal when details of a politician's planned response to a controversy were published before the controversy even became public, making him look calculated and insincere. I had lost one small client over these leaks. I had nearly lost a major one. spending weeks doing damage control and rebuilding trust. I had assumed the leaks were the result of sloppy security somewhere in the chain. Maybe a client employee. Maybe a vendor. I had never imagined my own sister was selling me out. When Sophia showed me the evidence, I sat in her conference room staring at printed emails with Chloe's name in the sender field, and I felt something inside me go numb. This wasn't just theft. This wasn't just fraud. This was active, calculated sabotage. My sister hadn't just been taking advantage of me. She had been actively trying to destroy what I had built. The numbness gave way to rage, so intense I couldn't speak. I stood up from the conference table, walked to the windows overlooking downtown, and pressed my forehead against the cool glass. Sophia came to stand beside me, her presence calm and grounding. "I'm sorry, Eleanor," she said quietly. "I know this isn't what you wanted to find. I wanted to defend her," I said, my voice raw. Even after everything, some part of me wanted to believe she was just careless, just immature. But this, she knew exactly what she was doing. She was trying to hurt me. Yes, Sophia agreed. She was, and that's what we're going to prove in court. We filed the police report that afternoon at the downtown Austin Police Department. Detective Maria Gonzalez, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, took my statement. She seemed genuinely shocked as I walked through the evidence, particularly the Instagram posts. She said, in her 15 years in financial crimes, she had never seen someone document their own fraud so thoroughly. The charges were filed the next morning: identity theft, credit card fraud, computer fraud for the stolen client files, theft of trade secrets, conspiracy to commit fraud. The district attorney's office assigned an assistant DA named Robert Park, who called me that afternoon and told me this was one of the most clear-cut cases he had ever seen. He said if Chloe had half a brain, she'd take a plea deal. But based on the arrogance displayed in her social media posts, he doubted she was that smart. Then came the hard part. Waiting. My phone started ringing at 6 o'clock that evening. "Mom." I didn't answer. She called 12 more times before I finally blocked her number. Then she started texting. "How could you do this? She's your sister. You're going to destroy this family. I hope you're proud of yourself. Your father would be ashamed." That last one almost broke me. I stared at it for a long time, Dad's face swimming in my memory. But then I thought about what Dad had actually valued. Hard work, integrity, standing up for what was right. He had built his own business from nothing, a small landscaping company that he grew through honest work and fair dealing. He had taught me that your word was your bond, that how you treated people mattered, that success meant nothing if you achieved it dishonestly. Dad wouldn't be ashamed of me for this. He'd be ashamed of what Chloe had become. I blocked Mom's number entirely and changed my locks, just in case she had a key I didn't know about. The next day, Mom showed up at my office. I was in a meeting with a new client, a restaurant chain looking to rebrand, when David knocked on my conference room door with a panicked expression. "Eleanor, your mother is in the lobby. She's causing a scene." I excused myself and walked out to find Mom standing at the reception desk, her face red and tear-streaked, her voice loud enough that everyone on our floor could hear her. "You selfish, ungrateful girl. After everything I've done for you, I raised you, I sacrificed for you, and this is how you repay me by trying to put your own sister in prison." My receptionist, a sweet 22-year-old named Madison, looked terrified. Several of my employees had come out of their offices to see what was happening. This was exactly what I had feared. The public spectacle, the humiliation. But I didn't feel embarrassed. I felt anger. "Lower your voice," I said, keeping my tone cold and professional. "You're in my place of business." "Your place of business," Mom laughed. Hysterical. "You mean the place you built by stepping on your family? By forgetting where you came from?" "I built this," I said, stepping closer to her, "by working 80-hour weeks for 10 years. I built this by sacrificing every relationship I ever had because I was too busy working. I built this by taking risks and facing failures and getting back up every single time. What I didn't do is build this by stealing from people who trusted me. Chloe made a mistake. Chloe committed multiple felonies. Chloe stole over $70,000 from me. Chloe sold my clients confidential information. Chloe has been systematically robbing me for years. That's not a mistake. That's a crime. Mom stared at me like I had slapped her. For a moment, I thought she might actually listen. I might actually hear what I was saying. Then her face hardened. You've changed. Success has ruined you. You used to care about family. I still care about family, I said quietly. I just finally realized that family shouldn't destroy each other. Now please leave, or I'll have security escort you out. She left, but not before shouting loud enough for everyone to hear that I was dead to her. That she would never forgive me. That I had chosen money over love. After she was gone, I stood in my lobby, very aware that all of my employees were watching me. I took a breath and turned to face them. I apologize for that, I said. My family is going through some difficulties. It won't affect our work here. And I appreciate your professionalism. David stepped forward. We've got your back. Boss. Whatever you need. Several others nodded in agreement. Maria, my newest hire, met my eyes and gave me a small, supportive smile. In that moment, I realized that this was my real family. These people who I worked alongside, who trusted me, who saw me at my worst and still chose to be here. This was what family was supposed to be. Chloe and Marcus returned to the United States 3 days later. They were arrested at the airport in Houston during their layover, before they even made it back to Austin. Detective Gonzalez called me to let me know, and I felt a weight lift off my shoulders that I hadn't realized I was carrying, but the arrest was just the beginning of a new nightmare. Chloe made bail within 24 hours. I found out later that Mom had taken out a second mortgage on her house to pay the bail bondsman. $50,000 she didn't have. For a daughter who had stolen and lied and destroyed. Because that's what enablers do. They enable until there's nothing left. The harassment started immediately. Chloe created a new Instagram account and started posting about her terrible, greedy sister who cared more about money than family. She painted herself as the victim of a vindictive sibling who couldn't stand to see her happy. She posted old photos of us as kids. Me holding baby Chloe. Both of us smiling at the camera. With captions like, "Back when my sister still had a heart, and before money changed everything." She got hundreds of comments from strangers, telling her how sorry they were. How they couldn't believe a sister would do this. How family should forgive. She never mentioned the $70,000 she stole. She never mentioned the fraud. She never mentioned selling my client's information. Just that her successful sister was trying to put her in prison over a misunderstanding about a credit card. Marcus started a Facebook page called Justice for Chloe Whitmore. He wrote long posts about how the criminal justice system was rigged in favor of the wealthy. How people like me used money and power to destroy people who threatened us. How Chloe was being persecuted for the crime of being young and making a mistake. His page got 3,000 followers in 2 weeks. People I didn't know were sending me death threats via email and social media. Someone left a dead rat on my doorstep with a note that said snitch. I had to hire private security. My mother escalated too. When showing up at my office didn't work, she started calling my clients directly. I found out when Robert Chen, the CEO who had given me the $3 million contract, called me personally to ask what was going on. He said a woman claiming to be my mother had called his office and told his assistant that I was mentally unstable, that I was having a breakdown, that the stress of success had made me turn on my own family. She suggested he might want to reconsider working with someone so unpredictable. I felt my blood turn to ice during that phone call. This wasn't just personal anymore. Mom was actively trying to destroy my business. Robert was kind about it. He said he didn't believe a word of it, that he'd seen my work and my professionalism firsthand, and that family drama was none of his concern. But he wanted me to be aware. He said if she contacted him again, he'd be forced to file a restraining order, and he thought I should do the same. I thanked him and hung up, then immediately called Sophia. She filed for a restraining order that afternoon. Emergency protective order against both Patricia and Chloe, prohibiting them from contacting me, coming within 500 feet of me, or contacting any of my employees or clients. The hearing was scheduled for the following week. In the meantime, Sophia's team was building our case. The forensic accountant she hired, a meticulous man named Dr. Raymond Chu, uncovered even more evidence of Chloe's theft. He found that she had opened 3 credit cards in my name using my social security number and old addresses. She had run up balances of over $30,000 that had gone to collections before I even knew they existed. My credit score had taken a hit, and I hadn't noticed because I had been too busy building my business to check my credit reports regularly. Dr. Chu also found evidence that Marcus had been involved in the scheme from the beginning. Bank records showed that he had been depositing money from Chloe's fraud into his account, then using it to pay for his lifestyle. He had a prior conviction for check fraud in Oklahoma, which explained his dead fish handshake and 2 white teeth and general aura of sliminess. He was a career criminal, and my sister had become his partner. The discovery process revealed something else that made my blood run cold. Chloe and Marcus had been planning to open a PR firm in direct competition with mine. Using the stolen client information as their foundation, they had registered a business name, Whitmore Communications, clearly designed to cause confusion with my firm. They had been setting up shell companies to hide assets. This wasn't just theft. This was a calculated, long-term plan to destroy me professionally and steal my business. When Sophia showed me the incorporation papers, I had to sit down. My hands were shaking. My vision was blurring. I had known Chloe was selfish and immature, but this level of malice, this level of premeditation, it was beyond anything I had imagined. She really hates me, I said out loud, and my voice sounded small and lost. Sophia sat beside me and put a hand on my shoulder. She doesn't hate you, Eleanor. She's jealous of you. There's a difference. Hate would be more honest. This is envy. And envy makes people do terrible things. The restraining order hearing was a circus. Mom showed up with a lawyer. Some ambulance chaser who worked out of a strip mall and reeked of desperation and cheap cologne. He argued that I was being vindictive, that I was using the legal system to punish my family for petty grievances, that a restraining order was extreme and unnecessary. Sophia calmly presented evidence of Mom's harassment. Phone records showing 87 calls in 1 week. Screenshots of text messages. Affidavits from my receptionist about the scene Mom had caused at my office. A recording of the voicemail Mom had left for Robert Chen, which his assistant had helpfully saved and provided to us. The judge, a stern black woman in her 60s named Judge Patricia Morrison, listened to everything with an expression of increasing distaste. When Mom's lawyer tried to argue that this was just a concerned mother trying to help her daughter, Judge Morrison cut him off. "Counselor," she said, her voice sharp, "a concerned mother does not harass her child's place of employment. A concerned mother does not contact her child's clients to sabotage her business. A concerned mother does not enable criminal behavior. The restraining order is granted. 500 feet. No contact. Direct or indirect. If your client violates this order, she will be held in contempt and face jail time. Do you understand?" Mom started crying. Her lawyer tried to comfort her. I felt nothing. The same order was granted against Chloe, who didn't even bother to show up for her hearing. As we were leaving the courthouse, Mom broke away from her lawyer and rushed toward me. Security stopped her before she got close, but she screamed loud enough that everyone in the corridor heard her. "I hope you rot in hell. Eleanor, you've destroyed this family. You're not my daughter anymore." I looked at her, really looked at her, and I saw her for what she was. Not the mother who had read me bedtime stories and packed my lunches and held me when I cried about Dad dying. That woman was gone, if she had ever really existed. This was an enabler, an addict, someone who had chosen her baby's bad behavior over her older daughter's well-being for 20 years. "You're right," I said, loud enough for her to hear. "I'm not your daughter anymore. I'm nobody's victim." I walked away and didn't look back. The months leading up to the trial were the hardest of my life. Not because of the legal stress, though that was considerable. Not because of the harassment, though that continued despite the restraining orders, just through indirect channels and third parties. But because I had to face the fact that I was completely alone. My extended family took Chloe's side. Aunts and uncles and cousins I had grown up with. People I had spent Thanksgivings and Christmases with. They all believed the story Chloe and Mom were telling. That I was the villain. That I was greedy and heartless. That I had betrayed family for money. My cousin Jessica, who I had been close with growing up, sent me a long Facebook message telling me she was ashamed to be related to me. My Uncle Tom posted on his Facebook that he was praying for Chloe and Marcus to find the strength to forgive me for my cruelty. My grandmother, Dad's mother, who was 92 and living in a nursing home, called me and said she didn't understand how I could do this, and that she was disappointed in the person I had become. That one hurt. Grandma Rose had been at my college graduation. So proud. Telling everyone her granddaughter was going to change the world. And now she thought I was a monster. I tried to explain. I sent her a letter detailing everything Chloe had done. All the evidence. All the theft. She never responded. I found out later that Mom had told her I was lying. That I had fabricated evidence. That I was having a mental breakdown. There were moments, in the dark hours of 3 a.m, when I couldn't sleep, when I wondered if they were right, if I was the monster, if I should have just let it go, absorbed the loss, kept the family intact. $70,000 was a lot of money, but I could recover from it. Was it worth losing everyone? But then I'd think about my employees, about the clients who trusted me, about the business I had built with my own hands, about the Eleanor I wanted to be, the one who stood up for herself instead of being a doormat. And I'd think about Chloe and Marcus's plan to destroy my company and steal my clients. That wasn't a mistake. That wasn't a young person making a bad choice. That was calculated, malicious, and criminal. So I kept going. Therapy helped. I started seeing Dr. Sarah Mendez twice a week. She specialized in family trauma and toxic relationships. She was the one who helped me understand that I wasn't responsible for fixing other people's problems. That boundaries weren't cruelty. That choosing myself didn't make me selfish. She gave me homework assignments. Write a letter to Dad, telling him what was happening and what I thought he would say. Make a list of all the times I had sacrificed for Chloe and how she had responded. Identify the beliefs I had about family and examine where they came from. The work was painful, excruciating. Actually, facing the truth about my family, about how I had been conditioned to be the caretaker, the fixer, the one who absorbed everyone else's dysfunction so they didn't have to change. Seeing how I had enabled Chloe almost as much as Mom had, just in different ways. But it was also liberating. Every session, I felt a little lighter. Every week, I felt a little stronger. The guilt that had crushed me for months started to lift, replaced by something I didn't quite recognize at first. It was self-respect. My business thrived during this time, which surprised me. I thought the scandal would hurt us, but it had the opposite effect. The story got picked up by local news, then regional, then national. PR executive prosecutes sister for fraud became a headline that people clicked on. I gave one interview to a business journalist, explaining calmly and professionally what had happened and why I had made the choice to prosecute. The response was overwhelming. Emails from people thanking me for speaking out about family financial abuse. Messages from other business owners who had been victimized by relatives. Calls from potential clients who said they wanted to work with someone who took ethics seriously. Whitmore PR signed 4 new clients in the 3 months leading up to the trial. Our revenue increased by 30%. My employees rallied around me, working harder than ever. Proud to be part of a company that stood for something. The trial began on a cold Tuesday morning in November. The courthouse was packed. Apparently, prosecuting sister, was enough of a spectacle that people were willing to take time off work to watch. I wore my navy Armani suit, the one I had worn the day I signed the contract that Chloe had used to fund her vacation. I wore my hair pulled back, minimal makeup, simple jewelry. I wanted to look professional, competent, unshakable. Chloe showed up in a pastel pink dress that made her look about 16. Her blonde hair in soft curls. Her eyes red-rimmed like she'd been crying. Her lawyer had clearly told her to play up the innocent little sister angle. Marcus wore a suit that probably came from a rental place, too big in the shoulders, and he kept tugging at his collar like it was choking him. The prosecution, led by Ada Robert Park, was methodical and devastating. He presented the evidence in chronological order, building a narrative that even a child could follow. First, the supplementary credit card that Chloe had been using for years with Mom's help. Then, the escalation to the business card and the Bahamas trip. Then, the stolen client information and the plan to start a competing firm. He called witnesses. The yacht rental company manager who testified that Chloe had explicitly presented herself as Eleanor Whitmore, CEO, and had provided my business information to secure the rental. The villa resort manager who said the same. Employees from the stores where Chloe had shopped, showing receipts with my name and company information. The owner of Sterling Communications, the competing PR firm, who testified that someone calling herself Chloe Whitmore had contacted him offering to sell confidential information from Whitmore PR, and that he had purchased some of it before learning it was stolen. That testimony made me sick to my stomach. Hearing someone describe how my sister had actively sold out my business, hearing the dollar amounts, seeing the evidence of the damage she had caused to my relationships with clients, it was almost unbearable. Dr. Chu, the forensic accountant, testified for 3 hours, walking the jury through every financial transaction, every stolen dollar, every fraudulent account. He had prepared charts and graphs that made the scope of Chloe's theft visually impossible to ignore. $73,852 in total. That was the number. Nearly $74,000 stolen from me over 2.5 years. The defense tried to argue that I had given Chloe permission to use the cards, that this was a family misunderstanding, blown out of proportion. Chloe's lawyer, a slick man in an expensive suit who was clearly costing her more money than she had, painted me as a controlling stafe, jealous older sister who couldn't stand to see Chloe happy. Then, I took the stand. ADA Park walked me through my testimony. I told the story of our childhood, Dad's death, becoming the responsible one. I told them about every loan, every check, every time I had enabled Chloe's behavior because I thought that's what family meant. I told them about finding out about the fraud, about discovering the stolen client information, about the plan to destroy my business. My voice didn't shake. I didn't cry. I stated facts calmly and clearly, the same way I would present a PR strategy to a client. Then came the cross-examination. Chloe's lawyer tried to rattle me. He asked if I resented Chloe for being the baby, for getting attention after Dad died. He asked if I was jealous of Chloe's youth and beauty. He asked if I was really prosecuting her because of money or because I was bitter and alone and angry that she had a relationship and I didn't. I looked at him steadily and said, I'm prosecuting her because she committed multiple felonies. My personal feelings are irrelevant. He asked if I had ever given Chloe permission to use my credit cards. I said yes. Once. For an emergency car repair. And she had returned the card immediately and paid me back. He asked if I had ever given Chloe money. I said yes. Approximately $120,000 over the course of 10 years. None of which she had paid back, but all of which I had given willingly. He asked if I expected her to pay it back. I said no, because gifts don't need to be repaid. But theft does. That seemed to land well with the jury. I could see several of them nodding. The lawyer changed tactics and tried to make me seem cold. He asked if I loved my sister. I paused, and I felt the courtroom holding its breath. I loved who I thought she was. I said finally, but that person doesn't exist. The person sitting at that table is someone who stole from me, lied to me, tried to destroy my business, and showed no remorse for any of it. Sonu. I don't love her. I don't know her. Chloe started crying. Loud, dramatic sobs that echoed through the courtroom. The judge had to call for a recess. When we reconvened, the defense called their witnesses. Mom testified, rambling and emotional, insisting that I had always been jealous of Chloe, that I had money to spare, that this was a family matter that should have been handled privately. Under cross-examination, ADA Park got her to admit that she had given Chloe access to my credit card without my permission, that she had known Chloe was using it for personal expenses, and that she had told Chloe it was okay because I owed the family for being successful. That admission was damning. I could see several jury members' expressions harden. Chloe testified in her own defense, which Sophia had told me was a terrible idea but which her lawyer apparently couldn't talk her out of. She cried through her entire testimony, painting herself as a lost young woman who had made mistakes, who just wanted her sister's love, who didn't understand that what she was doing was wrong. She claimed she thought I had given Mom permission to let her use the card. She claimed she didn't know using my company name was illegal. She claimed the client information had been shared with her innocently and that she didn't know it was confidential. Every word was a lie, and the jury could see it. Under cross-examination, Ada Park destroyed her. He pulled up her Instagram posts, the ones where she bragged about living that CEO life and having a company card with no limits. He asked her if someone who didn't know they were doing something wrong would typically post about it publicly. She had no answer. He asked her about the plan to start a competing firm. She claimed it was Marcus's idea, that she had just gone along with it, that she didn't understand the implications. He showed her the incorporation papers with her signature, her handwriting on the business plan. He asked her why, if she thought she had permission. She had lied to the yacht company and the villa resort, presenting herself as me. She said she thought it would be easier, that she didn't think it mattered. He asked her if she had any remorse. She looked at me, her eyes streaming with mascara-stained tears, and said, "I'm sorry Eleanor feels hurt, but I don't think I did anything that bad. Not I'm sorry for what I did. Not, I'm sorry I hurt you. Just, I'm sorry you feel hurt." It was the most honest thing she'd said during the entire trial. Marcus didn't testify. His lawyer advised against it, probably because his criminal record would have been admissible if he took the stand. Instead, he sat there looking sullen and angry, occasionally whispering to Chloe, who would then start crying again. The closing arguments were powerful. ADA Park laid out the evidence piece by piece, building an unassailable case. He talked about trust and betrayal, about the sanctity of family relationships and what happens when someone violates that trust so completely. He talked about the impact on my business, my employees, my clients. He talked about premeditation and malice. Chloe's lawyer gave an impassioned speech about mercy and family and second chances. He urged the jury to remember that Chloe was young, that she had made mistakes but could learn from them, that sending her to prison would destroy her life. I wanted to stand up and shout that she had tried to destroy mine, but I stayed silent. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. 6 hours that felt like 6 years. Sophia and I sat in a coffee shop across from the courthouse, neither of us eating or drinking, just waiting. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from employees and friends offering support. I didn't answer any of them. When the call came that the jury had reached a verdict, I felt my heart start pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. We walked back to the courthouse. The gallery was packed again, everyone eager to see how this family drama would end. I sat in the front row with Sophia beside me. Chloe and Marcus sat at the defense table, Chloe gripping Marcus's hand, both of them looking pale. The jury filed in. I tried to read their faces, but they were carefully neutral, trained not to give anything away. The judge asked if they had reached a verdict. The foreman, a middle-aged man in a button-down shirt, stood and said they had. On the count of identity theft in the first degree, how do you find? Guilty. On the count of credit card fraud, guilty. On the count of theft of trade secrets, guilty. On the count of conspiracy to commit fraud, guilty. Guilty on every count. All 8 charges. Chloe's face went white. Marcus started swearing under his breath. Mom, who I hadn't seen sitting in the back row, let out a wail that sounded inhuman. The judge scheduled sentencing for 3 weeks later and remanded Chloe and Marcus to custody immediately. As they were being handcuffed, Chloe turned to look at me. Our eyes met across the courtroom. I waited for her to say something. An apology. An explanation. Anything. Instead, she said, "You did this. This is your fault." And that was when I knew, with absolute certainty, that I had made the right choice. The sentencing hearing was shorter but somehow more intense. Chloe's lawyer presented character witnesses, people who talked about what a sweet girl she had been, how she had so much potential, how prison would destroy her. Mom testified again, begging the judge for mercy, saying she couldn't lose her baby girl. The judge listened politely to all of it. Then she asked if I wanted to make a victim impact statement. I did. I stood at the podium in front of the judge, and I spoke directly to Chloe. I told her about all the years I had sacrificed for her, all the money I had given, all the chances I had offered. I told her that I had loved her, truly loved her, and that her betrayal had broken something in me that I didn't know could be broken. But I also told her that I was grateful, because her actions had taught me that I was worth protecting, that my work was worth protecting, that I didn't have to set myself on fire to keep other people warm. I told her that I hoped she would use her time in prison to reflect on her choices, to get help, to become someone better, but that whether she did or not was no longer my problem. I told her goodbye. The judge sentenced Chloe to 18 months in state prison for the identity theft and fraud charges, 5 years probation after release, mandatory financial literacy and counseling programs, and full restitution of $73,852 plus an additional $35,000 in damages to my business reputation. Marcus got 2 years because of his prior record and the evidence that he had been the primary planner of the competing firm scheme. He also got hit with charges for violating probation from his Oklahoma conviction. As they were being led away, Chloe looked at me one more time. This time, her face showed only hatred. I felt nothing. After the sentencing, I did something I hadn't planned on. I held a press conference. Sophia had set it up, thinking it would be good for my business. But I had a different purpose. I stood in front of cameras and reporters, and I told the truth. Not the version where I was the villain, or the version where Chloe was a monster, but the real truth. That family relationships can be toxic. That love doesn't mean accepting abuse. That it's possible to care about someone and still protect yourself from them. I talked about the warning signs I had ignored, the pattern of entitlement and manipulation that I had enabled, the way I had confused love with sacrifice, had thought being a good sister meant being a doormat. I talked about how hard it was to make the choice to prosecute, the guilt, the fear, the sense that I was betraying everything I believed about family. But I also talked about the freedom that came after, the relief of finally setting boundaries, the peace of knowing I had protected not just myself, but my employees and my clients and my life's work, and I made an announcement. I was starting a foundation, the Whitmore Foundation for Financial Independence. It would provide resources for people, especially young adults, who were being financially exploited or abused by family members. Legal support, counseling, financial education, job placement assistance. Everything I wished I'd had years ago when I first realized my family was using me. The tagline came from something Dr. Mendez had told me during one particularly difficult session, something that had changed how I saw myself. Your worth is not someone else's bank account. The response was overwhelming. Within a week, my website received over 10,000 messages from people sharing their own stories of family financial abuse. The foundation received donations from people I'd never met. News outlets wanted to interview me. I became, weirdly, a voice for people who had been taught that family came before everything, even their own well-being. Whitmore PR exploded. The publicity from the trial and the press conference brought in more business than I could have imagined. We had to hire 5 more employees. We opened a second office. The $3 million contract became $5 million when Robert Chen's company expanded our scope. Other major corporations started calling, wanting to work with someone who they knew had integrity, who they knew would protect their interests. But the best part wasn't the business success. It was the messages from people who said I had given them permission to save themselves. People who had cut off toxic family members after reading my story. People who had stopped giving money to relatives who were draining them dry. People who had finally put themselves first. 6 months after Chloe went to prison, I got a letter from her. The envelope was thin, the paper inside covered in her handwriting. Part of me didn't want to open it. Part of me thought it would just be more manipulation. More blame. More demands. But I opened it anyway. The letter was 3 pages long. It started with excuses, claims that she hadn't understood what she was doing, that Marcus had pressured her, that Mom had told her it was okay. But by the 3rd page, something shifted. She wrote that prison had given her time to think, really think, about her life and her choices. That the counseling programs were making her face things she had avoided for years. That she was starting to understand how much she had hurt me, how much she had taken advantage of me. She wrote that she didn't expect forgiveness, that she understood if I never wanted to speak to her again, but that she wanted me to know she was sorry. Really sorry. Not for getting caught, but for what she had done. She ended the letter by saying that she hoped someday she could be someone I would be proud to call a sister, but that she understood that day might never come. And that was her fault, not mine. I read that letter 3 times. I cried. Ugly tears that I didn't expect. Grieving for the relationship we could have had, for the sister she might have been if she had made different choices, for the family we should have been. Then I put the letter in a drawer and didn't answer it. Maybe someday I would. Maybe someday she would get out of prison and become that person she wanted to be. Maybe someday we would sit across from each other in a coffee shop and have an honest conversation about everything that had happened. But that day wasn't today, and maybe it would never come. And I was okay with that. Mom tried to contact me a few times through third parties, cousins who said she was sorry, that she missed me, that she wanted to reconcile. I didn't respond. She had made her choice when she enabled Chloe's worst behavior, when she attacked my business, when she chose to be an enabler instead of a mother. I made sure her medical bills were still paid through an automatic payment system. I set up a trust that would cover her basic needs if she ever had a medical emergency. But I didn't call her. I didn't visit. I drew a boundary and I kept it, even when it hurt. That was the hardest lesson I learned through all of this. That love doesn't require you to sacrifice yourself. That you can care about someone from a distance. That protecting yourself isn't the same as being cruel. A year after the trial, I stood on the rooftop terrace of my downtown Austin office building. The foundation was thriving. Whitmore PR had just been named one of the top 10 boutique agencies in the Southwest. My team had grown to 25 people, all of whom I knew by name, all of whose families I asked about, all of whom felt valued and respected. The September wind was warm, carrying the smell of the city, the sounds of traffic and construction and life happening below. I looked out at the skyline, at the buildings catching the late afternoon sun, and I thought about how far I had come, not just professionally, but personally. I had spent so much of my life believing that being a good person meant sacrificing myself for others, that being a good daughter meant funding my mother's irresponsibility, that being a good sister meant enabling Chloe's destruction. I had confused love with doormat duty. I had thought that if I just gave enough, sacrificed enough, bled enough, they would finally appreciate me, respect me, love me the way I deserved. But I learned, I learned that you can love someone and still protect yourself from them. I learned that family is supposed to be a source of support, not a drain on your soul. I learned that saying no doesn't make you selfish. It makes you sane. And I learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is to let them face the consequences of their own choices. Maybe Chloe will come out of prison different. Maybe she'll finally understand that actions have consequences, that other people aren't just resources to be exploited. Maybe she won't. But either way, it's not my problem to fix anymore. I'm free. I'm finally, completely, undeniably free. The weight I carried for 20 years, the burden of being responsible for everyone else's happiness, is gone. I still work hard. I still care about people. But now I care about people who respect me, who value me as more than a bank account, who understand that relationships are supposed to be reciprocal. My company is thriving. My employees are loyal because I treat them well, and they see how I've handled adversity with integrity. My clients trust me because they watched me stand up for my values even when it cost me personally. I have real friends now. People who show up for me the way I used to show up for others, without keeping score. And you know what? I sleep better than I have in years. So here's what I want you to take from my story. If someone in your life is using you, whether it's family or friends or anyone else, you are not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep them warm. You are not cruel for having boundaries. You are not selfish for protecting what you've built. And you are absolutely not responsible for fixing problems that other adults create for themselves. Love yourself enough to say no. Respect yourself enough to walk away when someone shows you they don't value you. And understand that the people who truly care about you will never make you choose between your well-being and their approval. It took me 20 years and $74,000 to learn that lesson. I'm hoping you can learn it a little cheaper. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to cut off someone close to you to protect yourself? Are you dealing with a toxic family situation right now? Drop your story in the comments. Hit that like button if this resonated with you. And subscribe because I'm going to keep sharing real stories about real people taking their power back. Your life is yours. Nobody else's. Remember that.